You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Marvel Comics Podcast, episode 77. It's like Paul Coffey. That is the legacy number, 577. I'm here with my man, Matt. What up, Matt?
What up, Jim?
What up is 3 books, 2 of them Spider-Man books, but are they? I mean, actually, in this, it's a weird play that we see probably more of Spider-Man in a book that he's dead than the one at the end, though.
Yeah, that one page.
Yeah, me and you may disagree with some of these tonight, but we also have in between those a Hellhunters, a odd little series that we have been following that really, I don't know. The idea of Bucky in that book is so odd. It's so odd when we get to it, but it kind of made me giggle. But before we get into that, let me let everybody know that maybe if you like reviews and want to check out some written reviews, you can go to our website, WeirdScienceMarvelComics.com, where you can get Sus Gabe's Take of the Week. He has a couple reviews. Now, if you end up thinking to yourself what the big book of the week is, it may not be reviewed. But if you want some of these side books, that's the thing that I always joke with Gabe about, the idea of what he decides to review. But it is all up to him because he's the only one reviewing them. So he could do what he wants, is what I say. But you can check those out. And if you like what you hear, want to support us for all of this and get a ton of other shows, including a crisis show, an events podcast that me and Matt do over on our Patreon, go to our Patreon at patreon.com/weird science. There's a link in the show notes. And if you want to go check things out, you can get a 5 or a 7-day free trial to check all the shows out. But we have a ton of them. But we're here to talk about Marvel. And this week, these are the 3 books I've read so far. Mm-hmm. We've had worse weeks. It's just weird with these books, though, of when we get things that matter. Because we're going to start with The Amazing Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man 68 deaths. Even that feels like something they would like kind of skirt away from, that deaths. It's just
It's
odd.
Pretty harsh, yeah, deaths.
In that, I mean, what do we get a death of? We already had Peter is dead in the last issue of Amazing Spider-Man. What is really dead is my enthusiasm for this book, especially 3 weeks in a row. It's been a while since we've had 3 weeks in a row of Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's back to back. I mean, this issue doesn't need to exist, really.
No.
I mean, it expands upon some stuff, but
and with that, you know, who didn't go back to back to back? The Chiefs. I'll just keep bringing that up.
They definitely didn't.
So when you go into this deal, we already had a deaths issue, and it really didn't matter. So when you go into this one, if you did go in and I had to get it, and I thought it would matter more, that might be on you. Right? Because if you see the lay of the land, some people collect and they'll
I would say the only people
run.
actually buying this are the collectors that have the complete run.
Again, some people just, I'm reading and I want to check it out. But if you haven't yet and you are thinking of it, it really has nothing to do with anything.
Like
it's an X-Men. It's an X-Men issue. And in fact, it does a decent enough job of giving you at least the team and explaining the team from the X-Men, including Juggernaut, which is the focus, and maybe get you inspired to go read the Jed MacKay book. I don't know. I'm not that inspired, but it is written by Christos Gage, who I like too.
Yeah, Christos Gage is a plus for this, definitely.
Yeah. And again, this is a nothing issue and really has nothing going on. Has about a half of a page of what would even be a script in my mind, but he still makes it readable. I mean, he is good enough that I didn't get mad by the end. I just end up, again, that it didn't really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But it's Christos Gage, Mark Buckingham on art, Matteo Iacono on colors, DC's Joe Caramagna on letters. And again, this is a Juggernaut issue through and through. Remember, the first Deaths issue was a Coulson issue.
Yep.
You didn't really learn too much. You learn when death or slash whatever. Some people actually had an issue with how we described it, saying that, you know, he's death or whatever. He's more like a Grim Reaper. Not even that. It's a weird play.
Well, he's powered by the Death Stone, so it's a little different.
It's different, but we found out how he got in the trajectory of that and how they ended up spawning him or whatever. In this, in the last issue, you ended up having, Spider-Man dying. There's a spoiler alert. But the idea that the blight has hit Earth, which really does convolute the contest completely. All of Sidorak Scions are mostly dead. They've been killed. And so all of this is the world starting to be blight infested, which makes you just go after your dog, your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, all that. But the thing is, because of Sidorak, Juggernaut was not affected. And if you're unaware, they do a decent enough job. Christos Gage kind of explains in this of the idea that the blight is the thing that Sidorak is, always in battle with. And it's that, lifelong, eons long battle deal. So,
but why is he not infected?
I guess it's just because the Sidorak is so against it that's kind of
the other
thing
Scion was taken over by it, and he's murdering everybody.
But he was taken by because he went and accepted the blight. I think that's more. It's not well played. When you ended up getting the blight involved, remember, we were even confused. We thought he was in a Sarlacc pit at one point.
Yeah.
All these things going on to then accept the blight because that's the thing. Again, it's almost like the idea of my son Rafe, huge football fan. He can't like the Eagles because I do, so he has to go and pick the Browns for some reason. Luckily, it wasn't the Cowboys. But in fact, it's like he doesn't want to do what his daddy does, so he ends up accepting this blight. But it's a weird play. But again, it seems that it can't get through the Sidorak deal with Juggernaut. So what this ends up doing is, if you are not aware, even if you are, it tends to feel to me that it is a explanation of why Juggernaut should be an X-Men and why he still remains that, because he likes his team. He likes them. They're actually friends. He actually explains to Sidorak in this, I was always getting beat up. It's actually a pretty smart little side conversation of Juggernaut saying, you gave me this power. It ain't that good. I keep getting my ass handed to me by everybody.
And the power goes up and down. It goes up and down.
Yeah,
and
you
can
get
be taken
mad
away.
at me and you take it and whatever. It's at your whim. And I keep getting beat up by people who are coming together as friends and family and a team. I kind of like that. So I'm going to stay with this team and kind of push the Sidorak that way. If you don't like it, screw you. I'll die as Marco. Just take the power away. And he has some balls. He stands up and he ends up getting zipped off to Sidorak and ends up in the Crimson Cosmos and ends up pretty much trash talking him and saying, this is it. I don't care anymore. I've been beaten up. I've been doing this. I keep pushing you, all this stuff. It's not gotten at me anywhere. So what do you say about that? And of course, he says nothing because he hasn't said anything. And I still want it to be that idea of so what do you say now? And he doesn't say, oh, so I got to you, did it? He's just sitting there. I swear to God, at the end, they're going to reveal he's dead.
Well, at least, he did a hand wave at the end. He shot him off.
Actually,
so he did something.
I think that what it was supposed to be is he flicked him like a fly. But I really want it to be a Weekend at Bernie's. He isn't even alive. He's just there. It'd be hilarious.
Him around, yeah.
Start playing reggae music. He starts dancing. So you end up, that's basically it. If you're here for Spider-Man, if you're here for the contest, if you're here for anything, it's nothing. And that's why I could get angry, because it really has nothing at all to do with
It's just X-Men on X-Men
Spider-Man.
action. That's what this is.
Yeah, it is. And it's not as sexy as you just said it. It's just, and you do learn if you don't know the characters. It felt like a basic entry point if you were interested but don't know much about what's going on in X-Men, at least the team.
I mean,
because you get that.
I'm a little jaded now, but back in the day, if I was reading Spider-Man in the late 80s, early 90s or whatever, and this happened, I'd be excited. This has been cool.
Yeah. It is the weird play, because by the end, Christos Gage is trying to show you, I think, how cool the team is and stuff like that, Juggernaut being on the team. But I know better. And Christos Gage is not going to convince me, because I've already tried and I haven't really enjoyed the X-Men stuff.
Yeah, they're rough. They're rough, yeah.
Yeah, so it's as if, I think that's the play. He's trying to convince me of something I've already convinced myself that I'm not into. So it kind of lessens it. But again, I wasn't angry. By the end, I thought that it was at least well enough written, even though Juggernaut, I mean, really all he keeps yelling is he's unstoppable. And he even, there's a couple times he gets cut off halfway, but that's all he's going to say. And you get it. And they're fighting, but they are being controlled. They have the blight. I wish that the blight was more explained in this than anything else. No, you can barely
tell unless you're looking that they're infected with it. Just those little bubbles on them.
Yeah, so all of that going on, it still ends up being that we're right where we were at the end of last issue. And in fact, this is how little I think that this whole 8 Deaths of Spider-Man means. Not that me and Matt are the smartest guys. we both forgot until he popped that Spider-Man was dead. But that should be the biggest thing.
I totally forgot.
And I'm telling you,
we just talked about it last week.
People may laugh. It was last week. Spider-Man died, and that's how little impact that we got. That I had the same thing. I'm like, oh shit, he is dead. Like there he is. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Because I kept thinking to myself, when's Spider-Man going to pop up and fight people? And he's actually dead.
And we're starting to put more and more of this up on YouTube as well, and maybe making more YouTube stuff. And so a year ago, I think that would have been something I would have read, and immediately, because we get review copies, we see it earlier, immediately I would have made a video like, you'll never guess who's dead or whatever. I don't think anybody cares. I don't think anybody even bats an eye. Me and you went to the point, to the extreme of saying, maybe you should stay dead for a little. Get Ben Reilly and actually do something with him.
Anybody else. Yeah. Something different. Kane, something.
Yeah, something, but they don't. And what happened to that book?
Is it still coming out?
I don't know. Have you seen it come out since?
It's like 2 months, maybe.
I forgot about that book. Holy moly. I got to look into it now because I think it has to still be going, right? I have not seen it. We usually, not that we talk about every book, but we usually go through each one to figure out what we're going to do. I don't know. Was it a one-shot and then the series is coming up? Possibly?
It was a one-shot for you.
Yeah, I don't think it was a one-shot for everybody. Seems so to see. I'm telling you, I don't want to sound dumb or anything, but I just, that book just disappeared. But maybe it was like a one-shot and the series is coming up. I don't remember. Wasn't it Steve Fox?
I don't remember.
That might be the cause
I think
of it
so.
all. I think so as well. But again, in this, you're going to have Kane fight his team, and they're going to team up, and they're going to try to do things. And they get the helmet off, and when they do, it is kind of funny where he has a helmet on underneath the helmet, and he's like, "I've learned." And he calls them dumb, but then they get upset, and Quentin's there to yell that he was a terrorist in high school, things like that. And then at the end, again, it's just that Sidorak flicks him back with the idea that, oh my God, what happened? But he let Marco keep the power. Juggernaut still has the power, so it must have gotten to him. And they even say, and again, these things, such a weird play. It's almost like an annual. But it's almost like something like you can't change anything because it doesn't mean anything. So you get the idea that it could change. And then at the end, they're like, and on that day, it looked like Juggernaut kept the power. And then off we go. Would have been crazy if Juggernaut, because I thought at one point we were leaning towards him actually going on the bad route again and going against the team. And that would be really odd to do an Amazing Spider-Man and not X-Men. But they've done some weird things. I mean, this is a book that Miss Marvel died in. So all bets are off. But in the meantime, he just goes back, and then me and Matt are reminded that in fact, Spider-Man is dead until maybe next issue, because I don't think it'll stick. Also, here's where you want to know one thing here, and it's Nick Lowe and this bullcrap. The idea that in a Amazing Spider-Man 68-point deaths, they have an editor's note that says, you are reading the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, aren't you? Like, why? This is part of it. When have you ever seen that? That like you'd have the One World Under Doom #2, and they're like, you are reading the event, right?
No point.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing to point out. That shows, again, that people are going to probably buy this thinking it's an X-Men book.
I mean, Jason and Ruben should be talking about this, not us. But
yeah, really. They should be talking about a lot of things, there, Ruben. I love that. That is not you.
No.
That thing.
I don't want to get blamed for that one.
That's the thing, too. It also pissed Stork off on the opposite angle of it because it's him. How dare they? How dare they?
It's like an exhaustive deep dive.
Yes, those guys. Those guys are gems. But what would you give this?
I was going to say it makes me want a Christos Gage written book, on a regular basis, because he's pretty capable. One of their better writers, I think. And Mark Buckingham is a blast from the past. He's pretty good too. So
yeah, they look good.
The art is better than what we're getting regularly on this.
Yeah, it's better than the Justine Ireland artist that we've had the last couple issues.
Yeah. So I mean, that being said, I'd probably give this a solid 6.5. I think
I might give it a 7.
Yeah, it's a 7.
I'm telling you, maybe it's because it has nothing to do. Now, I should be more mad that it has nothing to do with the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. But at this point, that might be a plus. You know what I mean? And what Christos Gage is great at because, or you could call him Dan Slott Jr. because he does always pop in. He seems to be really good at just jumping into stories in the middle and doing a capable job. That's like his big thing. His superpower is to be able to jump in at any time
and all that,
and kind of get things good enough that you're not upset or you end up. And in fact, sometimes when he does jump in for Dan Slott, it's better, because that's more investment from him. And that this is just, I don't know why, what, or whatever, but you could have done worse. And they picked a pretty good guy to jump in and do this, to just give you a decent enough issue to read, get out. I'm never going to remember it. I'm never going to sit there and say it's the best Juggernaut story ever or anything like that. It might be my favorite Juggernaut story because I haven't read many, but it just is capable. And that is something that this book has not been. And so I will give him kudos for at least making it readable. And from there, we'll go back to the nonsense. And we're almost done. We're almost done. The 8 deaths. I said, I don't even know how many deaths he's had, hasn't had, or whatnot. Feels like every issue, something inside me dies a bit. Maybe my love of comics, but that is that. So we'll move on to the next book. And the next book it's a weird book. Hellhunters, number 3. It's one of those books like, I can't say that I would tell somebody to read it or it's my favorite book, but I don't mind it. And so when I saw, because we didn't know what we were going to talk about, we knew that Amazing Spider-Man was coming out, and then we were going to pick what else we go with. The minute I saw it, I'm like, yeah, we'll do that because it's very quick. I just don't know at the end, and the stuff here with Bucky and even with Cap and stuff like that. More and more, it just feels like it's nothing. Like it feels like you're just supposed to be having some fun and forget about it when it's done. I don't know. Maybe some
it's
people
like, hey,
disagree.
These are all the people that were involved in World War II in some way. Here they are.
And it's in continuity because it is the, giving you that Ghost Rider.
It is in continuity?
Yeah, that's what they claim.
So this really happened at the Battle of Normandy?
Yeah, they're saying whatever, The thing, though, is when you read it, it fully feels like just like it should be, again, like a one-shot, crazy, out-of-continuity story.
Like a Cat Wolf kind of thing.
And have fun, but it doesn't quite get to the fun factor, but yet it's still pretty cool. But what Philip Kennedy Johnson, he seems to dig into things but not give you the full effect. It's such a weird book for me to grasp, but you end up with Hellhunters. Number 3, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, art by Adam Gorham, colors by Frank Martin, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. We are going to get Bucky in this, and there's some weird scenes with Bucky. I mean, when you introduced Bucky, the first bit of him, and he's upset because he was stopped from cutting off Nazi ears, things are a little wacky.
Yeah, he doesn't ever talk about killing.
No, and the killing, he's talking about, getting souvenirs.
Taking the ears.
Jeez, and then he wants to smoke. Ooh-wee, what a bad guy. But you start out, and again, though, that's the fun part of it. But when you do get down to the nitty-gritty of the idea of, oh, this is the bad guys, the Nazis end up getting this, and Zarathos, and I don't really find myself invested. I would rather see these guys getting beat up by Wolverine and the Sorcerer Supreme here in the deal and all that than actually learn tons about their background and stuff like that and how this was all set up by a witch in Russia who ended up falling in love with the devil.
Yeah, I don't care about any of that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, these things are, and he's deep diving a little bit, which some people will probably like. But again, most of the time, what I want from these characters is them getting beat up and killed by our heroes, not exactly needing to know the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I don't need to know their origin story.
Yeah, and that's what it kind of is. But you end up where you just see that these guys and this guy, what is it, Bruckheimer or, Bruckner, he is pretty much just gathering gathering an army. He said it last time. At one point, they were like, you're going to have to get a ton of people, and they end up getting people at Normandy and things like that. So you end up where that's just more. They're calling in some people in, and he's like, hey, I'm glad you're here. You can help us out by giving us your blood. He goes on. The list is like never ending in that thing. It's like when you're going to trash talk and you're like, hey, well, what can I give you? Your life. That's where you should stop. You don't have to be your life, your blood. It just keeps going. Your bones, your steaming innards. I'm like, okay, it's not great trash talk anymore. But they're gathering up this mutant, not even mutant, zombie army type deal. This army from hell. And then we go back to our main character. And once we get to the main characters, it's pretty fun, though. They are just standing around talking,
Mhm.
but it is fun because you end up seeing that crazy Bucky, but you also get Cap, and Cap shows up to be there to then be told that Cap can't be involved, which is odd.
It kind of takes him out because everybody would ask, "Where's Cap?" You know,
Yeah,
you got Bucky
again,
here, but no Cap.
A lot of times, this would be like the idea. Oh man, Superman's off planet. You don't need to go through 5 pages, but it's okay. They
But
end
also,
up
like,
spelling
where's
it
the
out.
Human Torch? Where's like all those? Where's Namor? Like, I don't know.
It's getting big enough that they should get word out, but yeah, you end up where Nick and Peggy, they're coming in. And they get stopped by this guy, Izzy. And again, there's just every scene has
Izzy just doing his job. Like, okay,
it's just one panel or whatever too much. It slows things down.
Talking to the general.
And again,
stuff.
I want to see them fight zombie Nazis. That's what I kind of want at this point, though. We've seen that a ton of times. But Cap, he's just doing his job. Oh my God, it's Cap. Hey, how's it going there, Agent Carter? Great, Captain Rogers. It's just that. Hey, Nick, what's up? What's happening? Not a lot. We got these Nazi things. We got to talk to the general. We got to find out what we're going to do here. And they go in, and the idea that the word is out that the invasion, of the U.S. runs into in July or June, that everything's frozen and people are gone, but yet they don't seem to want to react to anything when they're told it's the devil and these demons are like, I don't know what I'm going to tell Eisenhower. Maybe you should tell him the truth because there's shit going down, and you've already admitted that you've seen some crap that you can't explain. So there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real odd back and forth of right away. Next, we found personal carrier stuck in ice, empty. And now there's a storm in France creeping its way north. Yeah, because this crap is real. It's going on. What do you have to say? Oh, well, it's this Nazi, and he's got this demon. Oh, I don't want to believe it. Well, you should, because you've already pointed out some real bad shit. Like, just the idea that everybody is missing from the invasion force. The idea of frozen schmozen. Where are these people? And they explain he's building this army, and we've got to go.
They're like, don't worry about Hitler. That's the least of your worries.
Yeah, and they even say at the one point, too, like, we need Cap. No, you can't have Cap. We need to do this. But we're all dealing with the same thing here. And we think it's a source. But he's like, you can't prove that. If you can prove it, whatever. I'm like, whatever. And then Nick at one point is like, we don't need anybody. I'm like, I don't know about that. But they end up having the deal. Maybe it is that Zardos is giving the story. And he seems, even though this is World War II, he seems too much like a hippie to me for any, they're not going to listen to this guy. Mm-hmm. But he's waxing poetic about it.
He's like taking dropping LSD.
Yeah, exactly. He's like a little ahead of time, but he could
he fit right into the Vietnam War.
I'm telling you this. I was just going to say, he could walk out this tent and he could be in Vietnam and it fits right away. He's like, he actually fits better. But in that, because Philip Kennedy Johnson wants to tell the deal, don't tell it like this. Like Zardo says, hey, tell him what's going on. Well, let me tell you, there was a woman and demons. No. Make it so that it's pretty much on the level of what you think what the U.S. Army needs to hear to react to this and say and whatnot. Just don't start going around with the Nightbringer and the Russian witch who fell in love. They ain't gonna go for that.
I would have rather seen, wouldn't you have rather seen maybe the Nazis doing experimenting with occult stuff and that's what caused this?
Instead, he's like talking. I think none of this is gonna register with this general. To then, because he doesn't want to, first off, he's not going to remember even the particulars to go and repeat it to anybody else. They just need to know the basic bitch story. This is really bad stuff. It might be supernatural, but it's happening and we're about to lose. You got to do something about it and tie it into what happened with the frozen case. Like all that, you got to be more, push it a little more, sell your case a little more. And they don't. Like, you ain't taking Cap right away. And they said this whole thing with, we think that this demon's back in the body of this Felix Bruckner, and we have to stop him. Now, in the meantime, because he's new, the whole deal of Romero, he's kind of sitting this out. Wolverine definitely wanted to go drink. He's like, let's find the enlisted men. But then he falls asleep, says Romero. He hears some kid crying near the stream. It just feels really odd.
He even looks younger, though, maybe 12.
He looks a lot younger. He's just walking around in that Bucky uniform. And he goes, hey, kid, what's wrong? Dum-Dum took my ears. No, kid, you have your ears. No, I mean Nazis. I killed the Nazis. I was cutting off their ears to make a necklace.
Did you think at first it was like that joke that adults play on kids where they, who took
I
your
got your
ears?
ear.
Yeah, I got
and he's so dumb.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just afraid he's going to take my nose next.
Wrong turn.
Great.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh, that dum-dum. I think you should be called dum-dum, my little fella. No, this is the thing. You go in and like, what's wrong? Ears? What do you mean? I don't understand. Oh, like I killed a bunch of Nazis and I was cutting off their ears to make a necklace. I'm like, all right, I'm going back over here. Like, I didn't see you. I'm over here, weirdo. And he's mad. He's like, I killed them fair and square. Those ears are mine. Like, all righty. And then the whole play is, hey, you're just 15 or something. You shouldn't be here. I'm tougher than you. He'll just keep saying that to everybody. But it is funny. I mean, he is kind of a, like I said, sassy. Mm-hmm. And he's got some oomph. Now, later, everybody's like defending him. Zardos says, we don't want to. Zardos is going with the idea of like magic has a cost, but also using a 15-year-old kid when what we're going against, that probably has a cost as well. Nah, it'll be fine. He's a crack shot. He is. He, by the end, seems completely crazy. Like he is bloodthirsty,
his
crazy.
His eyes
Bucky,
are crazy
right?
too.
Oh,
yeah.
He is over the top.
Everybody's looking at him like,
And then they're even like, man, but don't tell Cap, because that's the thing too. When the ears thing is like, if Cap finds that out, you would hope. Cap walks in, he's got like 7 necklaces of ears and noses and stuff. He's like, hey, everybody. Because he's like, holy smokes, you're that kid the Cap runs with. I thought that was just for gags on the newsreels. What's your name, kid? And he's just there. But he's kind of fun. But yeah, they end up saying, Cap can't help you. Pretty much what happens here is you gain Bucky. That's really it. You see that they're on their own. You said that you'd probably have to bring that up. But yeah, they're going to go and chase down this Bruckner by themselves. But Bucky's like, hey, I want to be involved. And they're like, with Cap ass say, you stowed away. But you do see like underground deals, almost like insect type things that they're gestating these, percolating these zombie
like larvae or eggs.
Yeah, they're making all these people out of that. But already it seems like there's such an army that they're building that there's trouble. At one point, they even say at the end, if we don't come back, get the hell out of Europe. It's done. It's over. And then they just go on their way. And yeah, then there's the big argument about Bucky being involved. And Zardos says, no, I don't want this. He says it a bunch of times. And then Bucky, I killed more than you, jerk. That's all he says. But they're going to let him go. It is the thing that gets me with Bucky. He's crazed. Later on, and then he gets his way, and immediately he's all smiles and nice until he doesn't get his way again. He's insane. But yeah, they go off, and then suddenly you get Romero. He activates into
flames on.
He flames up on the Ghost Rider 44 and says they must be near. We kind of know that, but again, you go through a whole issue. Kind of want them to be even closer at most times. I wanted to see more of that, but this is that like transition deal of, okay, we'll set this up. Cap's not involved, but we got Bucky. Let's go. Because when they go, all of a sudden, the Nazis come and we see, I guess it's the larvae that were down below. They come into a conglomerate of nastiness. It's just bodies. And I will tell you, it could have been a little more detailed.
I zoomed in. I couldn't even see any bodies.
You don't get a lot. In the one arm, you see a couple like bodies, but it more looks like they're consumed in a thing than creating it, but it's supposed to be made of bodies. And like, oh my God, fire at it. We'll go. Everybody retreat. Wolverine says, no way. I'm going in. Cover. I'm going in. I'm going to attack. I expected him to get eaten and then come out of the chest.
He gets like
he always
chopped
does.
in half or something. I don't know what happened to him, but
he'll end up doing that's. I like the art enough, but there's some parts that are a little bit, you can't tell exactly what happened.
And why doesn't Wolverine use his claws? He doesn't want to get shamed or something?
Yeah, I think that he doesn't want them to know.
It's weird,
so
isn't
he
it?
ends up, yeah. So with that going on, Ghost Rider comes flying in and Bucky's like, give me a ride there. You need a gunner? And he's insane.
He's shooting while he gets pulled away by his collar. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's shooting, rootin' tootin' Bucky, and then he's singing because earlier they get to this.
I don't know no songs.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, he's like, it's too quiet here. Sing some songs. I don't know no songs. All I know is what we march to. And then you have, I think, Romero, somebody's like, I don't want to hear that. And now he's going to do it. That was the setup to have him do it at the end. Again, he is fighting a giant monstrosity made of bodies on a flaming motorcycle with a Ghost Rider flaming, and he is crazily singing this song while he's shooting his gun willy-nilly at everything.
He's a wild man.
He's a 15-year-old scuzzbag. I'm telling you, he is insane. And when he gets back to the States, now you see what happened with Winter Soldier.
It's a good thing that the Russians got a hold of him because they kind of fixed him, I think.
That's the funny thing. They calmed him down.
Yeah.
He is so crazed at this point. Holy cripes. I'm telling you, at this point, Cap finds out that Bucky's gone and he's relieved. He's hoping that he never sees him again because he is crazy. But there you go.
Yeah.
At the end. And I thought that last page was pretty funny, but when you get the idea of ears, then this and that, and when it gets to it, you're like, this kid is off. He is so off. But what would you give this?
I'd give this one a 7. I think
I'd give it a 7.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The art's pretty cool. And
it's
like
fun.
You said, there's certain times where you can't really gauge what exactly is happening. We kind of guess. Like Wolverine, that one point in the body thing could have been a little more detailed. But
I
maybe
like the
not.
action stuff at the end.
Yeah. I wanted more action, though. I hope that we get this. Seems like we'll get some more action coming up. But again, Philip Kennedy Johnson loves lore. He loves the backgrounds of things. I don't know that we have to deep dive. We know what's going on here and just fight. But it's still pretty good. It's a weird book that, like I said, I wouldn't suggest it to anybody because it really doesn't seem to matter. But you can do
he's
worse.
talking about like the unhallowed and the fallen and all this crap. I don't care about any of that.
He's telling the general. I'm like the general. I don't need to hear it. But we'll move on to the last book of the night. I kept forgetting to ding it. And this is Ultimate Spider-Man, a book that we've been a little down on. Some of the things in this, you don't get a lot of Spider-Man. It's a lot of talking, a lot of yipping and yapping. I actually think that this picks up a bit. I mean, we get a huge moment in this, and it seems to be legit. It wasn't exactly what I expected, but we'll see what happens. But Ultimate Spider-Man, number 14. I'm trying to find these credits now, the way they do this. They have like 5 different intro pages. I think the credits might be at the end, or maybe there they are. Jonathan Hickman writing, Marco Cicchetto on art, your favorite. Colors by Matthew Wilson, letters by VC's Corey Petit. You end up having Craven is hunting. You get that. Like nobody would expect that, but he's hunting Harry and Peter. And the big thing is that he's already revealed, actually tortured them a bit and figured out things that who their relatives are and who they really are. And that's a big thing. Craven said, I know your wife, your kids, they're done. I'm going to get them. You get to escape. Maybe you can save them. So that's what they're really trying to do. Until Harry has a weird, like, side deal about insurance and the idea that Ock set up a thing for them that Gwen will be protected. But Peter screwed himself by being a dick. Remember, we said he didn't want to give Ock anything. Remember, hey, give me your number. And he's like, I ain't giving a number. Lose my number. That kind of screwed him a bit, it seems. But we actually start off with Richard, who's in the symbiote costume. Again, a weird thing that happened. I didn't really like it. And Black Cat, which we find out Black Cat is not as old as we thought she was. She's very young, actually, and almost the age of Richard, who he actually reveals who he is. Because she's like, I'm going to take you down. You maim my dad. You threw him up. He's like, I'm not Spider-Man. Hey, just because you change the outfit doesn't mean anything. He then shows himself. I still don't know why that legitimately proves anything. Like he could just be 15.
It doesn't because Spider-Man, the original one, was 15 when he started.
And I'm saying, like, you see the costume, it's a different costume or whatnot. But the idea that they are fighting right now and he's avoiding her and stuff like that, just because he's younger than you thought, he's still the same size that you're fighting, still everything. And he has this weird costume that just dissipates off. She says nothing about. And then he's like, no, you're just a kid. That doesn't matter. You could still push a person off a building, is what she keeps going on about.
Do you think reading this now that he might actually become the Spider-Man?
Well, he may.
Something might happen to Peter and that's it?
Maybe. I think people would lose it if that's the case. Again, I kept saying
that's
that
the
we're
way
going
it's
to lose,
going. I don't know.
Mary Jane or whatever, and people said there's no way because that's what people are here for. And we lose somebody on this issue. It's not Mary Jane, but again, it's a weird book. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know that people would want that because first off, Richard up until this point has been the, hey, J. Jonah, I love your book. That's all he's been. That's all he's been until he got the symbiote. So it does give him something to do, but it was odd. the symbiote that's there to protect the family if Peter disappears, but never says anything to the family until Mary Jane figures it out. And then on a side note, when people were saying, I love this because the family and the family's great, whatever, Mary Jane did not know her husband was gone for 2 months. And the idea he told the symbiote costume, you're not allowed to get naughty. You're not allowed to knock boots or whatever. So Mary Jane just couldn't figure things out until the last second. And then with this going on, it's just all of it's a weird way to set things up. But I do think, again, I did not think that Black Cat was that young, kind of setting up that these two will become friends maybe more as it goes on.
He's 15, she's 16, so they're right
so
there.
It makes that deal of them maybe being friends in the fact that maybe then after this, because he says, I can't tell you who my dad is. I would kind of guess it's Spider-Man, but the actual real identity. But the idea is she's still on that bad side of it. She doesn't want to be, but she is. That might cause the tension here. And that might be kind of cool, I guess. But there's a deal here, too. I do think, and if people would say, oh, yeah, obviously this was the case, I do think that Richards, at least on the spectrum, may have Asperger's or something. Because when you end up where he says, hey, so you're 16. Hey, what's going on? He then stops and says, yeah, I said that exactly the way I was supposed to. I was like, he's actually going down a list of how he was told to act so that people don't get uncomfortable and how people usually act.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's something that you're taught if you have some certain issues. And I know personally the idea, because I had that shit too. And that's what it is. And it's nothing, but it almost feels like it's there so that you know that. And like it's set up.
It's like a subtle hint. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fine. And again, that's why he's quiet. That's why we haven't seen him hang out with friends. It actually makes some sense overall. But again, if you're here to see this Black Cat and Richard, then you have at it. It kind of, by the end, it's kind of cool, but we'll see how that goes. But it's not exactly my main focus on the book. I want May, and she hasn't been in the book forever. She isn't even in this issue. And I want to see her more.
Maybe they all get suits and they all become Spider-Man. Spider family,
why not?
maybe. Yeah.
She has that made-up suit that she slung around with Peter. That was pretty cool.
Could be something.
But again, she's like, yeah, and then he's like, I'm not Spider-Man. So that's settled. But then we go back down underneath New York to the Savage Lands.
Why are they riding dinosaurs?
Man, they're riding dinosaurs. It's all for the visual, right?
It's impossible.
And it's just ridiculous. But people like it, but they're camping out.
Did you like when Dr. Doom was riding the dinosaur last week or 2 weeks ago?
Actually, Gabe was yelled at for his review that he doesn't have a sense of humor with that dinosaur on the site. I got involved with that one. But they're there, and the idea of getting all this together with this velociraptor, this dinosaur, get out of there. Like, you're given an... run. Craven said, get out of there. Don't stop to have a barbecue.
To domesticate a dinosaur.
Domesticate a dinosaur. Because this thing, you can't tell me that this thing is not happy doing it. If it's not happy doing it, it can still be strung up like that. All it has to do is like reach over and just destroy it. They must have spent months on this. It seems so ridiculous.
And then they eat one of them.
Yeah. Well, why not? I think they eat that one. I think they're like, now that you have gotten me to my destination, I will eat you.
Well, they started off with one each, then they ate one of them, and then they're both riding on the same one.
Get out of there. The one thing you need to do in the Savage Land is get out of the Savage Land. That's it.
That's what they're doing.
They talk about it, but they're stopping for a barbecue.
Yeah, just walk. Are you that lazy?
Craven, it can hunt you. Right? He's hunting you.
He's doing crazy stuff, shooting at him and stuff.
But what he's not doing is attacking him when they have a fire going. I mean, right there, there's no other fire probably going. They can see it. Is he just toying with them at this point? It just ends up being kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, Harry's snoozing on the ground.
Almost plays it off at the beginning of almost like a montage of them on the dinosaurs and stuff. Like, it looks cool, but it doesn't make much sense. But yeah, they're talking. And again, they're talking about, hey, what do we need to do? Where are we going? Harry's like, hey, we got to take care of these people. We got to kill them. We got to get rid of them. They know shit that we can't let them know. And it has to stop now. Well, we know Peter's not going to go for that. And they're trying to figure out stuff. But then Craven finally shows up and poor Velociraptor goes down.
Do dinosaurs have green blood?
I guess they do now.
Is that a thing? I don't know.
I've never run into a real dinosaur.
He shoots it in the head, and then you see Peter like trying to save it and carry it out of the water, and then it gets its head completely blown off.
Yeah, Peter, you're not saving it. It got shot through the head.
It's
Plus,
like a soldier that he's carrying off the war battlefield.
he just ate his brother 2 seconds ago.
This is crazy.
He's probably carrying it because they're going to be hungry for breakfast. He's got it now. He's like, thank you. I didn't have to take care of it. And then it gets his head completely shut. But when this dinosaur falls, because Harry was riding it, he ends up getting caught underneath. And he says he shattered his ankle, though it doesn't really come into play. Like, I never got the sense that they weren't fast enough.
He was still able to move.
Because Craven's on them anyway. They end up having a thing with Moment, but still, it never was a thing like, oh man, they would have gotten out if Harry would have been quicker. They just go and he's like, hey, it hurts. At one point, hey, how's your ankle? It hurts. It's just there. And maybe it's supposed to show you that Harry's tough in that other way, but that dinosaur gets his head completely taken off. And then Craven just is like, just hanging, while then you run into Moment, who's like, hey, I can end up getting my, guys
this
here.
This is the weirdest part for
moloids.
me. I don't know.
I love the idea where they're being led by hand, like these little moloids are like leading them there, and they're going to show them.
And they're such monstrosities now, too. In the real universe, they're like cute little,
I wouldn't be holding anybody's hand like this.
Those teeth.
Wash that
they
hand.
Make Gollum look like he's handsome.
Yeah, seriously. So you end up where they disappear. They go underground in the deal, and Moment says, hey, I'm not on your side. And even with the idea, I can't believe you're going against Kingpin. He's like, whoa, I'm not going against Kingpin. Like, I'm going against Craven. He shouldn't be doing this anyway. And I have a plan going with Mysterio. We're going to do some crap and whatever. It'll work out. In the meantime, we then go back to Richard and Black Cat for a second. The idea of, hey, who's your dad? I can't tell you. Okay, now I'm really concerned. They're kind of cute together.
Yeah.
It's fine. I think people will get a kick out of that. It's fine. But again, a lot of the things in this book end up feeling, again, like they don't have much weight to it because I still want to get some oomph. And I think we're going to have to wait till the Maker stuff. And that's still a while away. So you go back down to the Savage Land and Moment's trying to help them. And when they come out, this is the thing. Craven's always going to find him, and Craven ends up torturing some boys, like these poor little guys. They're ugly, but they get tortured. So we end up with dinosaurs dying, all this. And the big play with Moment was he said, I don't like Craven messing with my area. Like, this is my place, and he's in here shooting. He's got a railgun, for crying out loud. At this one point, comes in and starts shooting. That seemed weird
that he would use that. He seems like more of a spear or a bow and arrow kind of guy.
He's got that railgun. It's going. And Peter does talk, and we saw this before a bit, but he tells Harry, listen, somehow I can tell. It's just the Spidey sense. He says somehow
he doesn't know about the Spidey sense in this?
No. He had this before where he said something like he was angry. He doesn't understand what it is yet. So he says, I kind of can tell when he's going to shoot so I can get away from it. It's kind of a good thing. The problem is it's a weird play by the end because there's sometimes when you will have like a symbiote and Peter, because it's him, or a clone, he doesn't react but the idea that Craven's behind him with a gun drawn right there is enough, I think, for Spidey sense to go. Doesn't matter if Spidey sense to me doesn't really have the idea of like, well, let me see what his intentions are.
Yeah, like at the end, the last page or the cliffhanger when
that's what I'm saying.
That's weird.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, he would have known.
He would have known
any danger around him.
That it's danger. And remember, there's points. I think in this too, there was a point where he didn't know what the spider sense is. So, and when it happened, it felt like migraines or whatever. And there was so much around, and he didn't know what to do. And a lot of times, that's what ends up happening, where he can't, figure out what is actually the danger because there's so much. But in this, he's like, he doesn't and then Craven seems to know about the Spidey sense and says, oh, it's because I wasn't aiming for you. Again, the danger is Craven gun shooting, not Craven's kind of looking around you. And it didn't make much sense to me, but maybe people will differ that know a little bit more about it. But you end up at one point, I like the skip to my Lou Peter where he's like jumping around and then he like skips away. And then he faces, and Craven says, you're not going to be able to run forever. And he says, okay, well, then I'm stopping. Let's fight. And he does end up beating the crap out of Craven. And he does. And they even had set a trap, and Harry sets it off
with a rock.
And then Harry says, kill him. You got it. He can. He's at a point where he could just snap his neck, whatever he wants to do. And Peter is strong. We get that in this, especially when he's carrying that dinosaur. But he is, developed because of the spider deal. And he could kill him, and he doesn't. He says, I don't want to be like them. Well, that screws Harry completely. But I didn't expect him to kill him, but knock him out. Knock him completely out. I mean, you can end up choke him out, do whatever, sleeper hold. Don't just let him sit there. Like, there's no reason for him to
disarm
still be
him
conscious. At least. Yeah, strip search him. Go to town with him. I don't
cavity
care what
search,
you do.
whatever you got to do.
Yeah, full cavity search. But you have to do something to make sure, tie him up. But he doesn't do any of that and then turns his back on him. You already saw where Craven ended up coming at him with a knife at points. You know for a fact this guy could probably pull out an Uzi out of his butt and do just crazy stuff. And he turns the back on him and then says, oh, man, you missed me, because Craven does have a gun. And we see this whole time. I mean, it's very slowly going on. Spidey sense doesn't go. And also in this, the Spidey sense is very new to him. He still hasn't figured it out, that I don't think he'd fully 100% rely on that. Say, oh, I'm going to turn my back because if he does anything, that weird thing that I can't explain will happen. So I really had a problem with him not at least knocking him out. If he says, don't do it, like Harry yells, don't kill him, Peter. And he's like, kill him, and just boom, and knocks him out. He's like, I'm just knocking this guy out, because they do after this have to still run and get back to MJ and the kids and Gwen. So why leave him conscious when you're just running away from him anyway? And they were trying to kill him with the bomb. I mean, I hate to say it, but that bomb was not set there.
It could have easily killed him, yes.
It was not just set there with the idea of it could never kill him.
Yeah.
So stop it. Do something. At least do that. Throw him to dinosaurs or something. Kill one of the brethren. But it does skim Peter. And it is a crazy moment where Peter's like, oh, man, you missed me. And it's like, I wasn't aiming for you. And then you see Harry.
It shoots through Peter and hits Harry, but the spider sense would go off. I don't know.
But also, Harry got shot in the temple, and Peter got shot in the thing. What was he, bending over?
Did he get shot in the temple?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you see that
cooked
there. That's why he's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, the point at this where you're saying, oh, my God, he might live. I don't think there's any way. And I think Craven goes to town after this, because then Peter starts hitting him to knock him out. Yep. After that, and then Mysterio shows up and starts talking crap and says, you better get back to your family. They're probably in big trouble. What do you know? No, but I would figure that. And he's like, oh, crap. And so he does leave. And they were right there. They were like 2 feet away.
Yeah, they almost made it.
Knock Craven out and then run. If you're not going to kill him, you at least knock him out. But they get out and he
leaves Harry there, too, which is weird.
Yeah, Harry's dead body. Again, that makes me think that somehow it's going to be like a Winter Soldier type deal.
He's
like
going to come back alive.
They're going to bring him back weird and mad that you left me and things. Yep. But it really, whatever the deal, it looks like he got shot right in the temple, right between the eyes. So there's trouble. But he goes back to Mary Jane. Mary Jane's like, what happened? And he's like, it's bad. What happened? She's yelling, you're scaring me. I'm like, he's bleeding all over you.
You're bleeding.
And he's been gone for 2 months, all that. He's like, well, first I was tortured. Then we actually had some fun with dinosaurs. I was riding it like a horsey. But she's like, what's going on? He's like, we got to get out of here. I'm sorry. We got to go. We got to run. And the next thing will be like, where's Richard? Because he's hanging out as the symbiote deal. He's not there. And I expected that not we run. I expected them to say, where are the kids? And then we'll know that they're out and about. And then you could even play the idea that you think that this Black Cat stuff might be a ruse, that she's fooling. I don't think she is. The way that she's saying it really plays out. And I thought and I ended up talking to some people on YouTube about Black Cat, and the idea of stuff is somebody said they didn't really like this Black Cat. And one person said, well, we haven't gotten enough of her. Well, we do now. I kind of like her. She's been thrown into a situation she doesn't want to be in, but it's because of her father. Her father has trained her, but she doesn't want to be involved with these.
Yeah, I
old
like
dudes.
her. She's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool play to hook her up with Richard, to at least be friends at this point. We'll see what happens, but they got to run. Because now they didn't kill Craven's still out. He'll wake up and he knows where Peter will go back to. And he said, I don't give up. Again, Craven said to Peter, your buddy was right. I don't. And we know that he doesn't give up. Oh boy, he bested me. I'm done. He's coming after him and he's going to take down the family, and he killed Harry.
Well, do you know why he says he was aiming for Harry and not Peter? Why?
I don't know. And the thing is, the line only seemed to be to explain why Peter's Spidey sense didn't go, and it doesn't make sense for me. If you do go next issue, you see May finally on the cover.
And Sandman, it looks like.
Sandman, so we'll see how this
Ultimate
goes.
Sandman.
again, I thought this was better because at least some things happen and Harry going. And again, I kind of mentioned it a bit at one point. Harry said, it's fine, with Gwen. We don't have to worry about her. It's almost like a Secret Service type thing. And it's weird because he says, you ever hear about insurance if you get kidnapped? Well, I own the company we worry about. Well, I have this extra deal, this danger insurance. If I'm in danger, people will protect Mary Jane, or not Mary Jane,
Pretty
Gwen.
Convoluted.
But they won't know. She won't know it. It's very invisible. And Mysterio set it up. And it's this. And he didn't set it up for you because, and Peter's like, because I didn't tell him the identity because I didn't trust him. So we'll have to see, whatever. I still think that I still thought Mysterio was Doc Ock, but it may not be this. It seems a little different now. The characters seem a little weird here. Like the idea, again, Craven, I think the first thing he does is go get Moment and just put a bullet right through his forehead, though he might be afraid the ramifications from Kingpin, but still, like they're turning on each other, but it seems like they were like, he's right there. It was weird, but I still liked it more than some of the other issues recently, and it has a big moment with Harry. So, what would you give it?
I like this better than what we've been getting. Like you said, I'd give it a 7. I still get a little. Still the art for me just.
You don't like the art.
It's just a little creepy or something. I don't know. I don't get a good feeling from it.
People love Checchetto. I don't love him, but I do like his art at points.
To me, it doesn't fit the dialogue and what's going on from Hickman. It's not a good fit for me personally, but
I'm going to give it a 7.5. I don't know. Maybe if he knocked him out or whatever, I might have been able to go. But there's things that are forced to make it work.
Yes.
The idea that he was pointing the gun at Harry. He was still, that's the thing too. Peter still got shot. Like the idea that a gun's pointed and it still was pointed in the direction, like Craven had to shoot through Peter a bit to get, it would activate. He would have had that go.
Yes, and anything coming at Peter would be triggered. Unless it's different in this.
Just imagine, like, I think that if it was the Spidey sense, if you have the back to somebody and they just bring a gun out.
Or have a bat or a knife or anything.
Yeah, like right away, the danger is this guy has a gun.
And also your friends are in danger. That triggers it.
I like the Spidey sense. It's like, well, I think that he's pointing at Harry, so I'm not going to. Maybe it's lazy at this point. It's like, man, I've been going off a little too much in this Savage.
I was relying on that symbiote to do everything, but he's gone.
You could have played, and like I said, I kind of hinted at it at some points. You'll have where the Spidey sense is going off so much that you can't differentiate, and they are in the Savage Lands that is inhabited by dinosaurs, and they are being hunted. There's so much danger.
It's like Daredevil when that happens to him. Like you can't
there's
process
so much there that I probably would have went with. It's a bit muted out because everything's a danger. I mean, there's probably like 7 poisonous snakes right next to them and shit. That place is a wreck. I didn't want to go there.
No.
Also, those molites, like you see them, they're dangerous. They're going to steal your rings, stuff in your wallet.
And they're just clocking in the 9 to 5. They're doing their job.
Actually, they're not even. They're just kind of hanging, and they come out and help those poor guys.
It's all families slaughtered in front of them.
And I swear to God, Craven. It's a weird play. Like Craven should be like, "Hey, what's going on?" They're like, nothing, not much. He's torturing them because he realized one of us can talk and went down the line of like, pretend you can't talk. Just go with that. But yeah, there you go. But now we'll go off where me and my man Jason will be talking about the Ultimate X-Men. Hello, and I'm here. Hello. I'm here with Jason. Hello, everybody. I'm here with Jason. What up, Jason?
Hello, Jim. Call me J-Storm.
J-Storm, you are. I would like to say I'm Armor, but that really doesn't have any clever thing to go with. But hello, everybody. But we're here to talk Ultimate X-Men as we do. It's Ultimate X-Men number 12. And we will jump right into this because Jason's going to go off and cook some curry, which I do love, but curry doesn't agree with me.
Make myself a Japanese-style curry.
See, that's awesome. You go right from Ultimate X-Men into Japanese curry. So we will get into this. Yeah, it would be Ultimate Curry. And in this whole deal...
I am the maker
of the curry. I wonder if the maker... I don't know how this book's going to play it. I really don't because of the way that it's kind of separated from things, but we'll see. I'll mention it on a TV thing or something, but we'll see. But this is written and art by Peach Momoko, script adaptation by Zach Davis, in which we were told he does most of the writing, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. And I usually start these off by not even apologizing, but kind of like, hey, everybody, I understand if you don't like that. I think at issue 12, I think I'm done with that.
Right.
We're just going to get into it. And
We've
lo and
already
behold,
lost all the people who are. No one's jumping on issue 12. And
No, and
we would not
like
recommend you jumping on issue 12.
No, now I'm going to get back to it. But yeah, if you didn't like issue 1, you're not going to like issue 12. It hasn't changed. It's what it is. And too much has gone on now.
Yeah.
And it is one of those books you have to say, it's one of those that doesn't hold your hand. Sometimes maybe you'd like it, but it doesn't hold your hand. So when you get into it, you get into it and you have to remember things by yourself. You have to figure a lot of things out, which I like when we get on here because I need you to help me figure out some things because there's some wacky stuff.
Peach Momoko really takes this month by month thing differently than the other Ultimate writers do, where scenes kind of just stop. She kind of plays with it this month because we get a look at a videotape from last month. We get a little flashback at the end of last month. So it looks like maybe she's realizing, oh, I have to make some more linkages between the months, and she's using some comic book tricks that sort of start to make that happen. Maybe too little too late, but she started.
And it is one of the things that we've kind of complained about, the idea of that month-to-month deal where you do have the jump. And with this, we talk about it being a manga-esque type deal. It is. And people who argue it are wrong. So you end up where not only do you not have it weekly, but you also have the time. So it really throws it off a bit, but you go with this because
it feels like things are really happening and you think they're going to happen and continue to keep happening. Like important stuff is going to happen the next day after the issue ends, the next minute after the issue ends. But because of the way it's constructed, we got to jump forward 30 days.
Yeah, and which we do, which we ended up seeing, Internet Girl here. She was recording stuff from that meeting, Yukio. So she was recording stuff. So what you expect is her still there recording and going, oh my
confrontation.
Goodness.
It was May Storm, and she had put the mask on, and she's meeting with some of the kind of nice mutant cultists. Yeah. And then the Shadow King shows up, and it looks like there's going to be like a West Side Story confrontation between them. And that's when the issue ends with Yukio outside. But luckily, this month, she's reviewing the footage that she took a month ago. So we get to see a little bit more of what
I think it's
happened,
a clever way.
Not a whole lot. It's a clever idea.
To go to that next deal.
We don't really see what happens next. I thought we'd get to see more.
I did too. And I expect that what we missed was a lot of snapping the fingers and singing since we're still in the West Side Story deal. Where are the mutants? And you do have the deal where she's looking at this. I guess it's already up there or but she has a phone call and like, oh my God, you're going to, go viral with this stuff. And you do have, it's like mutant war. Oh my goodness. And
she's got the clickbait title. She knows how to do it.
She's got
the
it
thumbnail.
All. Yep. And she's doing some, controversies, some conspiracies of maybe the police are in with it. This person she's talking to is like, I don't know if you want to do that. You might get disappeared, which kind of made me laugh because that's something like a 5-year-old says. But you end up where whole deal. Where
stuff
it's going
has
up.
been
But
disappearing, right?
You
Things
will
have been
be
cleansed from the Vipers out there, the cult leaders out there.
It's dangerous.
We don't even know what happened to the older brother policeman guy.
Yeah, we don't.
We haven't seen him in a while.
Nope. So with that, then we go to May, and May's walking down the street. And again, time has passed. So you have to remember, that's where a lot of the things you have to get in your mind, like, oh, is she coming right from, oh, no, time has passed.
Right, now we get a flashback, and she's flashback to that same scene where there was that confrontation, and she's thinking back to what the Shadow King was saying. So Shadow King calls her neighbor, which, file that away, also calls Hisako his soulmate. That's creepy as hell. And kind of warns May to, stay away, don't get between me and my soulmate.
Yeah, and they start arguing about well, why do you think that? Why do you think that? And May says, because she's my friend. He says, why do you care? What do you care? Because she's my friend. And then she's there, and we kind of know solicits coming up that they're going to kind of fight. So even when she's walking, it almost feels like that next page where she's like, my friend, thinking, is she really my friend? Is she or whatever? It's a weird play.
Reflecting on the philosophical idea of friendship and what it means, but we just see her say, my friend, ...
my friend, and then
move on.
Goes to Kageyama's house.
Right. Because right then she puts together, oh, hey, he called me neighbor. This guy's my neighbor. He's kind of creepy. Gee, I wonder why I haven't put that together before.
Yeah. And the mother answers.
Also, that's a place where she was at right before her own powers activated.
Her powers activated and she says, that's the guy with the cat. And so she's figuring it out. She goes to talk to him. He's not there. And then the mom's like, so nice, right? Like, hey, you should just come in. You're a friend. Oh my God, this is great. And I'm thinking the idea that the mom's like, thank God anybody's coming over and, wanting, not even remembering the Children of the Atom stuff and how this is a little bit wackier anyway of what the mom might be
she's
into.
Had a weird relationship with her son, kind of overbearing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets dark quick because you end up having May go into his room and sees things and like, oh my God,
they have a kotatsu. That's what caught my eye. That table that's heated underneath and it's got like a blanket covering your legs. Oh, I want one of those.
I want one of those too. Has the buns on there. So you end up where she's in everything.
Add a new kotatsu level to the
that would
Patreon.
Be awesome. Yeah, that would be. What it is at a level so I can get one. That's what it is. And you get the idea, and I think the art does it well of she's in there and she's looking for something weird. She's like, okay,
just
that's
wandering
okay.
around. Yeah,
like wandering around. And
a weird
around.
thing to do is somebody invites you into their house and she's just kind of poking around at stuff. And she finds his special room.
Yeah,
which has those little alone time room where he's got those creepy pictures of Hisako and those. He's got a hanging doll,
talisman, that doll, all that stuff.
And in the corner, Jim, he has jars.
Yeah.
I do not want to know what's in those jars.
Well,
nothing good. Nothing
the
good.
bathroom's on the first floor. Is the problem there, or it's human parts? But you end up where she sees this and says, "Oh my God, this is bad," and that's where the mom just comes and attacks almost, like grabs, but then kind of falls down. Like it's a weird play.
She's having like an emotional. She's not well. She suspected May from the very beginning. Has been kind of following her, and she thinks that it's Hisako having an effect. That's why her son Shinobu is not the sweet boy he's always been. It's this Hisako harlot, and you're with her, aren't you?
Yeah, and again,
the scene ends, right? So we presume that May runs out. But as far as we can tell, she's stuck in that little alcove, that little shrine, with the lady in the way. So
and it is classic. The mom is going to blame anybody else but him. So she's doing this. He's upset. Not that my son is a crazy obsessed stalker. Mm-hmm. It's that she's doing something to make him do that, and she does. She comes at May and then kind of collapses. Like upset. So it does play out visually as somebody who's got problems. I mean, it's really, not right. And ends up with that, the emotions going with that. So it's pretty crazy scene. Again, when you leave these scenes, the only thing I can keep thinking is please get back to that scene before the end. It's almost like at the end, it's the game's over. And then we have to wait till the next game to start because of that month jump. And it drives me nuts.
A lot of comics, but especially to me, X books, as I, take all those things apart on that other podcast, they'll jump back and forth between two stories. They'll go A, B, A, B, A, B. And so, I'm always taking notes and I put all the A's together and all the B's together. But here in this book, they generally don't come back to it. Like that first scene where we had that streamer girl, Yukio, never come back to her.
Nope, never go back. You don't even get back at the end for them to say, like, oh my God, I'm getting the hits, and then see nothing. You never go back.
She goes into this Kageyama's house and has this weird conversation with the mom. It ends cold. We never get back to it. I always feel like, we're going to go back to it, but we don't.
Yeah, there's only one thing we have. At the very end, you see May reacting to the swirl deal that's happening, but you don't know where or when or what. It's just kind of her there and the other girls, and it's like a nondescript deal, but we don't go back. And that's the thing that kind of is getting towards the point. And I'll blame you. At one point, issues ago, you pointed it out, and I was just kind of going with the flow. When you pointed out and that time jump and how it is starting to be more of a thing, I'm like, oh man, it does stink. It stinks because I would like an issue like that stuff with May. That's big enough for me to have the main thing. Then when you get Hisako by the end, those two are the two things back and forth, but you also end up having Nico and Mori, and you get the streamer. They're all pretty big, but it almost feels like you just want more. You want more, and you want it to continue from where it ends to see how these end up, developing. But Nico and Mori's scene is weird.
It is, yeah. So they're at the high school, and it's after school. And I guess this is a thing in Japanese schools. You can hang out in the school after hours for a while. I've seen that before. They claim they're studying for an exam, but we know they're not.
And the teacher says, hey, if you're studying, fine. You're like, yeah, Mori says, she's teaching me some stuff. We're tutoring, whatever. And okay, you guys lock it up when you're done. It almost feels like, but yeah, they're going to do this spell, and they're going to try to, I guess, summon and try to see if
Yeah,
if Natsu is
they're looking
okay,
for
right?
Natsu because she's the one who has the Cyclops powers and shot all those holes through her mom and hasn't been seen in a couple issues and is not seen in this issue.
Which I'm worried about her because I kind of was liking her as well. We didn't get to learn too much except she made her mom very holy. That's what she did. But you keep going because
I think she's part Swiss. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you end up where they do see it's a weird play to say, okay, I see her eye patch. They're using like a crystal ball. They're doing this ritual.
They got a crystal ball. They're using a book from Natsu's room, I guess kind of like as a focus to tell the crystal ball what to look at. Makes sense. And they see her eye patch. And then they see the symbol of the cult. And then the crystal ball kind of starts to shatter and the book starts to shred. And the Shadow King comes through the ball.
Yeah, the ball. Yeah. Now, before the Shadow King, they do say, and this is like, okay, I'll go with you, but I see Natsu's eye patch. That must mean she's alive. I'm like, I don't see her with
I
that
don't
attached,
make the connection there. I don't know what that is.
If I saw the eye patch on her face, and then maybe, but no. And yeah, when the Shadow King comes through, the book starts shredding, like real bad stuff, like really,
very horror movie, poltergeist kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah. And in that,
here's a cool bit right after he comes through because Mori is the one who charges at the Shadow King with a crazed look on her face and says, "Where's Natsu?" He grabs her, but then he looks all confused and says, like, "Huh, you?" So something is up with
Isn't that
Mori.
weird? Yeah, and the weird thing is when he grabs her, it almost feels like it. Does he see them through the deal, or is he just whatever? Are they summon?
I think something's just going on with her, and he can sense because we know that in the 616 there's Molly Hayes, right? One of the runaways. She's a mutant. She has like super strength powers. So maybe that's what he's sensing via touch, because we know he can wake up mutant powers. That's one of the things he does. So maybe he senses that in her.
And the weird play again. I did even talk to somebody this week who was saying they didn't really like the Ultimate X-Men. I said to them, well, you've read every issue, which is odd if you don't like it that much, but would it be better if it was called Ultimate Runaways? And he's like, that would have been fine. I would have been fine with it. It's so weird, but that's what we said it from the very beginning. But in that, either that or he grabs her and then realizes, oh, you're part of the Children of the Atom, maybe, but I don't know how he'd go by. I think that you're right. I think there's some other power that he senses or we don't know about, or he didn't, or she didn't know about, that ends up where really
that's going to have to come back. Who knows how many issues from now.
And it's not like, it's like, you, as if there's something that people know. Well, it almost feels like a prophecy.
He knows that her family's part of the cult.
Yeah.
That's a known thing.
Again, it's such a weird play to say you is almost like you're the one that has this. That's how it played to me. Like, oh my God, I know this is a thing, but you? Like, she's just this little cute girl with the bunny ears. And I give her credit, and I do like her. And it's mostly visual at this point. But at this point, she's pretty sassy. So I do like, and that her and Natsu are really close. So when she sees him pop out, she doesn't even hesitate.
Yeah,
she goes feral and goes after him.
If this was like on the old Marvel podcast we did, and we were picking a gem of the week, it's definitely more.
Yeah, she's gem of the. We might have to pick the gem of the book. She's definitely it. She is definitely it. And then you end up. Nico jumps in with her staff and push, because it does look like at this point too, the way that it's drawn is that Maury's having problems. Like something's going on here, and she knocks her away.
But she grabs her by the ears, like she's Lyndon Johnson picking up a dog.
Exactly. Yeah, not very great.
There's a deep cut for our younger listeners.
That is, and if you want to go a more deep cut, look at what he had to say about his pants and the bung hole, and that might be one of the funniest things you'll ever read. But you end up where. So stand down, Maury. Yeah, it's great. And in that, like the eyes being blank is what threw me, but I just think it's kind of
it's like surprise. It's
yeah. Cool. And then you end up where now it's going to be Nico who's trying to do the spell, and you don't really realize, like at this point, it does look like she's trying to contain the power.
Well,
or she looks that. I thought she
looks like friggin' Gandalf confronting the Balrog.
Yeah, it does. Like, you shall not
pass. That's what's going on.
So in that, she's doing something, because she then says, like, oh, we contained this power, but not for long. But I'm thinking she's more defensive here. Then I thought she was dead. This
Yeah,
is a weird
because-
scene, right?
Yeah, a little tendril from the Shadow King shoots through that circle at the top of her staff and hits her right in the forehead, and we see it come out the back
there's
of
the
her
exit.
head.
Yeah.
We got an entry wound and an exit wound. I'm thinking,
yeah.
oh, geez, done
Maury
for.
yells, Nico, and she has the look of somebody who's just been shot through the head. And I thought, oh
Yeah,
my
I'm
God.
thinking, is she dead? Is she going to be now possessed by the
That's
Shadow
what
King?
I thought. But she kind of
I don't know.
shakes out of it, and then boom,
She
we're
seems
gone.
fine, and the Shadow King is gone. The crystal ball is shattered, and yeah, she kind of slaps herself, and she seems okay. Well, now we got to go back to my place and cast a spell to protect Hisako.
Yeah, because that's the big
Shadow
thing.
King's going to go after her.
Yeah, they realize now fully, and they seem to have figured out a lot of things now. Even May back at the house, like all this stuff. But then we get Hisako, and we get one of the bigger scenes that we've had in this book. Though it's a little subtle in the idea of why Tsubasa ended up, ending things early, and it gets graphic, and you actually see Tsubasa and what he ended up doing. If you were that interested in that,
this is kind of the first real-time, non-flashback scene where we see Kageyama and Hisako together.
Yeah. And we see that they did go to school together. And at one point, it looked like the way that
he just shows up at her door. So just knocks on the door, rings the bell, and he brings. Does he actually have the Omamori, or is he just miming? I think he's just miming what used to happen.
Yeah, he's saying that because then when he opens his hand, it's not there. But he's being so creepy about it because he wants her to remember that moment that he did try to, give it to her. But then it twists to be that Tsubasa did it.
To explain the context, so back in middle school some years ago, Hisako was pals with Tsubasa, who was this definitely troubled kid, was being bullied and stuff. And Tsubasa gave her this Omamori, this kind of protective amulet, the one that looks like her armor. We've seen it a bunch of times, not lately, but we've seen it a while. And at some point, she either drops it accidentally on purpose, not so sure, but Shinobu, Kageyama, Shadow King guy, he sees she's dropped it, picks it up, and tries to return it to her, but she's talking with the popular girls, and they say, oh, it can't be hers, because Omamoris, those are for old people, those are totally not trendy.
Yeah, that's not trendy.
Hisako denies having this being her Omamori, and Tsubasa overhears her saying that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, when you go through this, at first I didn't realize I'm an idiot, but I was reading through, and you do see Tsubasa in the background leaving. But yeah, the whole play is he wanted to give that to her, and she didn't want it. She pretended, oh, it's not mine. When you ended up even having, Shinobu come and say, hey, you dropped this. No, that's not mine. I don't want anything to do with it, because she's trying to be popular, and that's the moment.
Tsubasa takes this hard, and you can, in middle school especially, if you're an unpopular kid, you think you have one real friend, and then you hear that friend basically deny that she's friends with you. That's harsh. That's cold.
And this is just friends. It's not even like, well, he ended up, confessing or whatever the deal is. And this was just, hey, I got this for you. And she just happened to be with this cool girl that's like, oh, look at that ugly thing. Oh, man, is that yours? No, I don't even know who this is. Stuff like that. And so you end up where Tsubasa then ended it. And she says to Shinobu, like, did he do that? Was it him? And then you get the big play where he's like, well, I kind of gave him the suggestion to do it, but he did it. So it was him.
Just
like,
a month later that he hangs himself. And how much was it he was going that way anyway? How much a little mental suggestion did Shadow King guy give him? And they're really playing like, whose fault is it? Is it Tsubasa's own fault? Is it the Shadow King kid's fault? Or is it Hisako's fault? And she takes this hard.
And so the weird play of it is what I'm thinking. And also the idea, too, it looks like maybe Tsubasa had some problems already. Obviously,
For sure.
He said he was bullied. So I don't think he had to suggest it too much. I think you're kind of getting that. But he does end up with the deal, and it's bad. You see it. But the play here is, to me, is we know that Shadow King here, he's obsessed with Hisako. Mm-hmm. So did he wait for this opportunity to get Tsubasa out of the way? because it was a rival to him in his mind or whatever, because this was her friend.
When did he develop this obsession with her? We don't know.
Exactly, because and almost the idea of him going over, picking up the thing that she dropped and making sure that Tsubasa was still there. Oh, you dropped this, this thing of yours, and it's not mine. And then right away, he says, Tsubasa came to me for help, and I gave him advice, and it's so sus that I think he just wanted him out of the way. And then, of course, pick a kid who is already close, already bullied, so they'll never think that it was him. It's obviously got to be the bullies, and then take the bullies out because you're getting rid of evidence. I mean, it really seems like this guy's already, Shadow King is a serial killer, and he is insane.
And the Omamori is really important here, I think. Because we even get a panel, I don't know if this is whose point of view, but we see Tsubasa after he hung himself, very dark panel. There is a suicide line warning, and a highlight at the end of the issue here again. And we see he's clutching the Omamori in that final moment. And if you remember back issue 1 of this series, the Shadow gave the Omamori back to Hisako.
Yeah, and we thought it
very
was
much
Tsubasa
the same middle school scene playing out again.
And then she took it, and then powers. And again, he's also the one who's activating power. It's crazy deal that's kind of like this is a huge issue that does end up tying in some things.
Really makes that initial scene where she gets the Omamori back so much more powerful, because now we know how important it was to their relationship and how she has these feelings she must have had guilt feelings already anyway. So to see it come back like that was going to be really big.
Yeah,
so really, it seems like now the Shadow King, it's almost like a Rey from Star Wars kind of thing, where what's his name, Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, it's like join with me, we'll rule the universe together.
That's what it's like.
It's very much that kind of dynamic.
I like this a little more than that, but that's fine.
Better written, I think.
Yeah. But no, it is, and it almost feels like this is him when he's doing this. Like, he's not just going to talk to her and say, hey, what up? Remember me? Like, he is definitely doing exactly. He's manipulating her, and he's trying to get her emotional.
Want to go out for some ramen sometime? No.
It's like he's like going right for it, to the point where then you see the Shadow, because he grabs her then, and the Shadow, like, she is being possessed by him, taken over by him, or she's already ready for, like, she wants to give up, whatever it is, that whole play. She's like emotionally spent, it seems, to then get this happen. And he's like, don't fight it, embrace it. It does feel like any sort of, Sith and Jedi type deal of, accept the dark side deal. And you see, it seems that she does.
It's right out of that. He says to her, you feel it growing, don't you? With the darkness inside. Don't fight it, embrace it. It's pure Star Wars.
Yeah. And what I do like about it is that you almost at this point, you're like, do we really know Hisako? Because you see that she was like, oh, she's hanging out with the cool kid. She does this. But also remember, at one point she seemed just nice and calm. And then we got those weird moments of her being really over the top angry.
She had a temper where something
so she has that dark side. Again, it's like Luke, and all of a sudden he's getting her more Anakin. The idea, we'll go with Star Wars, just getting angry. And to the point where it's not just like anger. You kind of get it at this point that I think back at it is, it was bottled up anger that she was trying not to let go and kind of work through, and she couldn't, and she would just explode with things at one point. And now you're like, is she the villain of the book? And that's crazy. And I think it's one of the craziest things that's cool in this thing, because it's like a manga. We don't know what's going to happen. Each issue, it is up for grabs. And that's what the best is, where people complain and say, oh, Wolverine isn't in it, or Cyclops, real Cyclops. But if you have that, that they're probably going to play it pretty safe. There are going to be rules about it. But these girls, anything can happen. And it does seem from the solicits that May and Hisako end up kind of being enemies and go at each other. And,
here, I mean, the Shadow King wins. She joins with him. We see a scene where I guess that giant swirling shadow eye is back up in the sky.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
And we get little glimpses of the other characters seeing it, including, I guess that's Canon there having a popsicle or something.
Yeah.
So she's in the issue.
Having a popsicle.
She's there. Where's my brother? That's kind of weird.
It also, at one point, I'm like, is that an eye or is it a paisley? It's Princeton. It's not purple, but it looks like a paisley deal. But it is the eye. It seems like, I wonder, they're probably like, oh, this again? because we never did resolve the deal. But you keep going because
at
the end,
that
it's
final
crazy.
scene there, she says, "Tsubasa, forgive me, it was all my fault." And then in the final panel, we see she's back in her armor, but it's armor that's merged with shadowness.
Yeah, it's like shadow
it's
dark armor.
and creepy and spiky. And yeah, so right now it's like she's with the Shadow King.
And again,
I think that's going to be our next kind of major arc.
Yeah,
is
I think so
her
too.
On that side, kind of dealing with her issues and how her friends going to react to this, and how is that going to play out in 30 days?
I mean, I don't think it's. We'll see.
Again, Jim, I want to see what happens.
Yeah, I want to see
5 minutes
now.
after this issue ends.
Yeah, I want to see 1 second. And when you do have it, when she says that last bit, it almost feels like she's like accepting the idea that, yep, I caused it to Tsubasa. I'm a villain. I end up, what can I do? I ended up having a kid end himself because I was just a bitch. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's what it was. And almost like, well, whatever. I already did that. Just do whatever. Let's go. Let's be evil. But not in the way of like, yeah, that sounds great. Evil. It's almost like she's like, well, I guess this is me. Like you get that idea that she's had these ideas of maybe I'm not as good as I think I am and things like that. And then one point her mom's like, hey, I know you have to work. I'm like, this mom's really open-minded. Like, hey, work through some things and then call me. How old are these kids?
Yeah,
but it is Japan.
There's multiple texts from her mom that she hasn't answered. So she is having something's up with her for sure.
Yeah, and her mom knows things are going. And that might also seem to say that this sort of thing happens a lot with her, that she ends up having some mental issues and then disappears for a bit. And her mom knows that she'll be fine. But yeah, when you see that whole deal, I actually wish that we would have seen Natsu in this deal, see like if she is or where she is, but you end up seeing the other girls. And, you have May there who's just staring up, but you can't, it's hard to see where they are. But yeah, that jump is going to kill it. But what would you give this?
I think the best thing about this book is the characters. Right? They're three-dimensional, they're real, they go through things, and they have more to them than almost any other big two comic book coming out right now, right? These are not two-dimensional, flat characters. The storytelling I'm still struggling with, just for all the reasons we've already been through a dozen times. I love the cool look. That final panel with her being in that dark shadow armor, that is creepy as hell. That is a really well-drawn panel. But yeah, I need to know more. I want the story to move forward faster, and I guess I'm at like a 7.3 out of 10.
7.5. I'm a little bit more, but I'm with you. And but it still keeps me intrigued. And when it comes up, there's still things each issue that go, but that jump and things like that stink.
Yeah,
but
there's things that this book gives me that I don't get in any other book, so I keep coming back to it for that. But I want more. I want it more, and I want the storytelling relaxed.
Yep, I'm with you. The next issue's cover is pretty crazy too. It kind of that's a weird thing. That kind of continues the deal where you have the shadow in the background of her Hizuko, and it just looks crazy. And I want to know what's happening if she's. And again, we've seen some solicits, so we know there's going to be a confrontation. But I hope it's one of those like snap out of it. This isn't you. But again, May doesn't really know her. That's the weird play. These aren't friends, lifelong friends. It's not somebody she knew when she was 2. They're kind of newer friends, but I like them all together. But these characters.
It is
I really
a dark
do like.
book, though. I mean, the themes of suicide throughout, and not just hints of it. It's really the core of this book is Tsubasa's suicide before the book even started. Is really what's driving everything. So, not a book to give to a kid. Not a book to say, "Hey, here's something fun to read." Give them Squirrel Girl, maybe, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. That'd be a pretty good
like
one.
That,
yeah. That's what kind of keeps you on edge, though, because those things are in here and you don't see that often from Marvel at all. So I'm down with it. But that is it. We usually go about 30 minutes. It's a weird deal. We're like almost right on that deals, but that is it. But thank you for joining me, Jason. You go make that curry.
Call me J-Storm.
Not Steph Curry. Just make regular curry, but maybe make Steph Curry too. But we will talk to you later, and everybody will get back to either the podcast. I don't know how this is going to fit in the way that we do it. I always forget things, but we'll probably be ending the podcast now. So thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.